Hey Juventini, welcome back to the All JuveCast, and we are going to be recapping the Champions League match between Juventus and Ferencvaros. And yeah, I'm probably saying it wrong, and I don't care. It's a nightmare. I'm glad we've played them twice, and I don't have to say that name yet. But yeah, 2-1 victory for Juventus, and we're going to recap it all and talk about some of the surrounding news. And I've got a Juventino making his debut on the All JuveCast. Very, very excited as Rob reached out to me and wanted to be a part, and I loved it. Rob, first of all, how are you doing? I know it's very, very early where you are, and I appreciate you doing that.
Good morning. Yes, thank you for having me on. Yes, just north of London at the moment in the UK. So yeah, it's about 6 o'clock in the morning now, but very cold, but very excited to be on. And thank you very much for having me.
That's awesome, man. No, it's a pleasure, man. I love meeting you and Tini, and thank you so much for reaching out and wanting to take part. I'm glad we were able to make it happen, and I'm glad we have a victory to recap and discuss. That's always nice. Yeah. So we got a little tradition around here at the All JuveCast, and as Juventini make their debuts, I love finding out what the story is and why Juventus is your club. Why Juventus for you? How did that come?
Yeah, so my dad's Italian, my mum's English, but he's a Juventus fan, and so since since birth, 1984, so quite a long time now. So, but it was they didn't come onto UK television until probably 1992, I believe it was. So sporadically before then on Italian channels when my dad could get them, but otherwise 1992 onwards, in which case a lot of heartbreaking European finals.
Oh man,
some great moments too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. That's that one thing is those European finals. But yeah, that's just part of the ride, and that's going to make that next one that much sweeter.
Absolutely,
that much sweeter. All right. Well, let's get right into it. Juveferencvarosi. So one of the stories leading up to this one was obviously yet another injury. Demiral, who had a strong showing next to De Ligt versus Cagliari in what was probably arguably one of our best matches of the season, aside from the Sampdoria first match. Yeah. No Demiral. We were all hoping to see that guy who's a villain in one of the Rocky movies, Dragosin. The guy looks like a unit, but apparently he was dealing with an injury as well. He was in the lineup for this Champions League list and for this match, but we weren't expecting him to get to lineup. Once the lineup was named, we had Wojciech Szczesny in goal, Cuadrado, Danilo next to De Ligt with Sandro closing out the back line. And then we had Bernardeschi, Bentancur, Arthur, and McKennie across the middle with Dybala and Ronaldo up top. So when the news came out essentially the next day after our match against Cagliari, and it was stated that Pirlo was probably going to have about 6 changes in the lineup, like quite a bit. I thought to myself, and I put out a tweet there just thinking, for me, myself, I wouldn't do that. And the only reason I wouldn't do it was because of the fact that we're under construction right now, and we're coming off a really, really good win. And we knew that this particular match is against another weaker club. But not only that, depending on the result from the Dinamo Kiev-Barca match, this could secure us a spot in the knockouts with 2 games to spare, which would be far more crucial to experiment with at that time and could be huge for Pirlo since he has no preseason with the club and whatnot. I didn't want to see that many changes. Obviously, we were forced into one with the Demiral injury.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking at this lineup. McKennie made me a little bit nervous if it was going to be a 4-4-2. He's out of position out wide like that. And honestly, Dybala, I think I know what Pirlo's thinking, and I know he's thinking this is another, weaker club. Like, this is the game to pick it up, get that confidence going or whatnot. I think he's got to do it through substitutions. I would have said the same for Sandro had we not had that injury at the back. But those were the only things really going through my mind. Having said that, no matter who we played, I thought this would be probably around a 3-0 victory for Juve. Still comfortable. And I still felt that way when I saw the lineup. Rob, I want to hear your thoughts and your expectations going into this one and what you thought of the starting lineup.
Well, from my point of view, when we play teams like Ferencvaros, it's a cup final for them. It's a big match. They're coming to Turin. They're playing against Ronaldo. They're playing against Dybala. They're always going to up their game, and especially having lost at home to us by quite some margin, it gave them an extra incentive to do better against us. So I expected it to be tight. I expected them to be more organised. And I know Juventus, and I know that when we have these games, sometimes we take our foot off the gas, especially having beaten them so well at their place. So with the lineup, again, I agree. I don't like to see that many changes going from game to game. The back line, obviously, we cannot help because there was a lot of injuries. Demiral's a big loss. I was really worried about the back, and I had no idea how he was going to circumnavigate that issue. But I agree. In what appeared, at least on paper, to be a flat 4-4-2, the McKennie on the right, again out of position, unless he's there to cover the flank when Cuadrado goes forward. Maybe that's the thinking. I think that's pretty much what he was thinking. He doesn't offer enough, unfortunately, coming in from that flank. And I think that when a team like they did, defended very deeply, and you need to spread the play across the pitch, when you've got one of your wide players who's playing unnaturally in that position, who's not inclined to go on the outside, it means everything's drawn to the centre, and we don't open them up enough, and which is why we have the frustrations that we did.
Yeah, and I mean that's really the only one that sticks out like a sore thumb was that McKennie one. And I mean, any way you slice it, if you put him up in an advanced position, say he would on some of the lineups they had him in the hole behind Dybala and Ronaldo, and I mean that's still a little awkward or whatnot. When I look at McKennie and I see the way he plays, I think that's the perfect guy if you play a flat back four to put right in front of your two center backs, like playing like that Casemiro role. Like he would be just dynamite as that player. Like you just sit ahead of them, you win the ball, and when we get into advanced positions, you allow the center backs to spread out and apply the pressure to sustain that press in the opposition's end. That's how I see McKennie as a player. But nonetheless, this is our lineup. This is what we go into, and we start off the match, and it's a little cagey. It's kind of, Ferencvaros looks like they're gonna have a little bit more fight right out of the get-go, pressing pretty strong and whatnot. But Juve seems to kind of get their wheels in motion a bit. 14th minute, a nice play between Dybala and CR7, and Dybala, he connects with it. He gets it on goal, but the keeper makes a big save there. And I'm thinking, man, he really needs one to fall like that, right? The first two he got against this club the last time we played were gimmies, but he really needed that one. But yeah, no such luck on that one. 4 minutes later, and this is just extremely frustrating to see, but De Ligt goes up for an aerial. He doesn't win the aerial battle. It looks like he overshot it on his jump and whatnot and didn't quite line himself up properly. And it falls back. Danilo trips himself up, and Sandro takes a very strange route, getting where he needs to get. And he slides at the end as the cross is going to come in. And I'm not really sure he had to do that. And it looked ugly the whole way through, but three guys essentially did not stop two. and Uzuni for Ferencvaros gives them the lead in the 19th. And that's just incredibly frustrating to watch because it just looked so shaky. Cuadrado gives up that position a little bit too softly. Sandro kind of made a mess of that, and Danilo not able to stay on his feet and prevent the guy from turning, which would have essentially should have been a nothing play after De Ligt lost that aerial. And the fact that it turned into not only an opportunity for them, but a goal is just so sloppy and ridiculous, really. Very, very frustrating to watch. But we're 1-0 down. And I just laughed because I'm thinking, my God, that's just so typical of Juve because they come off this strong match against Cagliari. And I'm like, yeah, of course we would be 1-0 down to Ferencvaros. Like, what are you thinking when you see this goal go in like 19 minutes in?
Well, from my point of view, it's Juventus over the last 2 years. This is Juventus from Sarri up until now.
Yeah.
It's the same. There's a lack of leadership on the pitch, and this is it. It's a lack of organisation, and it's a lack of somebody just taking control of that situation. As you just mentioned 3 or 4 players individual errors leading up to that goal. It shows everything. 3 or 4 players.
And like the tough thing is when you look at those guys at the back, De Ligt has to be the guy that goes up for those because those other guys can't play in that fashion, right? Like he's got to be that guy. But then again, that's what you see in behind him. The lack of organization between those guys and coverage, like it was so sloppy. But there we are, 1-0 nonetheless. Again, we do take possession. We are trying to work it around. Through this half hour in the first half, it's frustrating because we're dropping a lot of passes. We're misplaying quite a few passes. There's a couple guys that are struggling in possession, and there's just not a whole lot we're able to work with. But we do have to credit Ferencvaros to some degree because they really tightened up a hell of a lot from the first match to the second. They literally played this match with a 5-man wall straight across the back. So they were happy to give us possession. You could tell they were going to try and counter us. And they were doing so dangerously because we had to commit so much because of the lack of space that was actually there. You had to get extra bodies in there just to try and get that defense to separate a bit because it was so tight and it was so congested. So if we were getting the ball in there to like Dybala, Ronaldo, Berna, it was so tight. And we had some decent interchanges and it was going to come. And the 32nd minute, there was a long ball tried to get to play to CR and he gets frustrated at how it was played. They try to clear the ball out, Ferencvaros. It actually gets right back into Dybala, who turns. But CR, he was frustrated. He tried to get back. He was offside by a mile, but he ends up finishing it. But you could see frustration in everyone kind of mounting up. But a couple minutes later, Arthur finds Cuadrado, who makes a quick pass to CR7, who beats his first man and has a hell of a hit, left-footed, just from the right side of the area there, and ties it up for us. And I'm thinking, okay, there we go. Let's get that ball moving. Let's get it quicker. Sometimes we eat the ball and it's just a little too slow. If you're going to beat these teams, sit back like that, you have to confusion. You got to create havoc, and it's got to come with the speed, the tempo of the play. But that was a nice goal. And we honestly, that's really how we finished up the half. I mean, we had possession, but it was really, really hard to get in there and get chances. And we come out of it 1-1. And at halftime, for me, I think I probably would have made a change at the McKennie position because he seemed like a passenger. Outside of that, Bentancur was kind of struggling. We had several players that were misplaying a lot of passes. Dybala continues to not look himself. I think I would have changed one because of the context of this match. Set the tone. Let it know that it's unacceptable to be 1-1 with this club in Turin, Champions League. opportunity to seal it up and get into knockouts, I would have made a change. Like I said, there was good interchanges and whatnot, but we were not as quick as we should have been and a little bit too predictable in the final third to cause havoc for a team that's got 5 at the back, completely organized. Your thoughts at the half, Rob?
At half time, again, I would definitely have thought about a change at half time. Definitely. We didn't have enough invention. Artur is very, very tidy in possession. He may well be a fantastic player moving forward for us. But at the moment, as Pirlo said after the game, he's not finding the right passes. And that will come with time, of course. But in the context of this match at half time, him and Bentancur in the middle were not offering us enough invention. McKennie, obviously, off the right again, same story. I certainly would have thought about a change. Maybe introducing Chiesa would have been an option for me on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Bernardeschi, I think he huffed and puffed. I think he put effort in, probably more than I've seen in recent times. But apart from the Cagliari game. But I certainly thought we needed to mix it up at half time.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to set tone, make those changes. Of course, we come out at half, no changes. And I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised because it's the one thing I've always said about Pirlo is I feel the substitutions or sometimes lack thereof maybe are from the inexperience. I think sometimes being the fact that he was a player for so long and he hasn't got the coaching experience that he sees it through the player's mind almost. And sometimes he's maybe thinking that way and he's trying to give players maybe a little bit too much benefit of the doubt, right? Because he's on that side, siding with them, like, oh no, I wouldn't, like if I was him and I was pulled now, that would piss me off or whatnot, right? Like give him another chance. Like maybe he's just being that player's coach, right? And I really can't think of a whole lot of reasons why, because if you watch these games and you get the feel and you see these guys being passengers like McKennie, and you see it so like obviously that he's just not fitting in, it's not working, and you see a guy like Dybala that continues to struggle and just make the change. Now, I know Dybala, because the guy's got to be key for Juve, and you're really pushing to try and get him going and whatnot. Well, if it ain't working, how long do you wait before you start sacrificing points for the team, right? Like you wait too long and this game ends up in a draw or something, that could be critical. Like, I mean, it's not something we should be doing. So it's tough. I think Pirlo really needs to get better at that, at these substitutions and figuring out how to make the changes, figuring out from his end how to impact the team, right? But we get to the second half, and Juve continues on, and they dominate the possession. 53rd minute, we win a free kick. Ronaldo smashes it off the wall, and I'm thinking, man, just get in the area. You're such an aerial threat. Let the ball cross it in. Let somebody put the ball in. 54th minute, Arthur's stepping up into play, smashes one, but he literally smashed it. I think it's still waiting to land.
Just landed in my garden now, that one.
59th minute. And this was a nice long ball by Danilo trying to pick out Bentancur. Bentancur disrupts the defender just enough that the ball falls to Bernardeschi. Bernardeschi chests it and smashes this thing, and just off the post and out, and very, very unlucky, but a nice rip. Bernardeschi is playing with some confidence. I actually thought he was playing good in this match. I know that this was an interesting match to see where Juventini stood as far as players' performances, because I felt like it was all over the map. You had the same player, and you had Juventini ragging on them, and then you had other ones praising them. Like it was all over the place with so many players. But I was actually fine with Bernardeschi's performance. He was very, very unlucky here. And then, but right back at it. 60th minute. So Bernardeschi smashes the post in the 59th. 60th minute, Ferencvaros comes right back at us, and it's a counterattack. And again, we look so sloppy at the back. You've got Sandro's man who makes a run in behind him.
Yeah.
For the life of me, as this player is carrying the ball up and that man goes around him, I cannot figure out why Sandro's got distance between him and his man. De Ligt at that point should have signaled to Sandro to move in front of the ball carrier, which would have been the easiest transition.
Yeah.
And then De Ligt could have easily taken a couple steps to his left and isolated the guy making the run. De Ligt took a couple steps forward to the ball carrier, which still had so much room, and Sandro was caught in no man's land.
Yeah.
So the ball gets slipped across to this man, and he's literally running in goal. I have no idea why he doesn't hit it first time.
No.
And he decides to take a couple extra touches, and by that time, luckily, Sandro gets back and recovers. But this is the kind of just sloppy, unorganized, because here's a game where we're literally controlling possession. And the opposition looks more dangerous than us with one attempt out of like the past 25 minutes of play.
Yeah.
You know? And this kind of thing continues to happen with Juve. So fragile at the back. And I mean, this is a tough match to really gauge a whole lot into it, but we've seen this trend before. But I know this one's tougher because you have Danilo really out of position because the only time he's played center back is in a back three. This was a more prototypical back four. You have Sandro, who's been just coming back now from being off for a long time. He played, I think, 10 minutes against Cagliari. That's about it. It's just it's tough to put it all on it, but it is something we've seen quite a bit.
Yeah, I would say I would give them, some sort of the saving grace is that these four in a back four have never played together in that way, and we had players out of position. But you could have substituted one of them and had Bonucci there. It would have been the same thing. The organisation is poor. The decision making is as you just mentioned with the leaks, so it is off at the moment. They need someone there needs to just get hold of the situation. Someone there needs to take charge and start ordering people around. Like Chiellini used to. Well, obviously we haven't got him available at the moment, but like he did. We just haven't got that organisation. And you're quite right. When we've got the ball, we look like we're in the most trouble. If we're playing Bayern Munich instead of Ferencvaros, that's another goal for them.
Yeah,
that's another goal for them.
Yeah, and that's just it, right? And it's just these little scenarios, these little counters that we just look so susceptible on, and they've got to tighten it up. They absolutely have to. 61st minute, we see the first round of subs. Pirlo makes 3 of them, and I agree with them. He's got Morata coming in for Dybala, Chiesa coming in for Bernardeschi, Kulusevski coming in for McKennie. Dybala at this point, honestly, I don't know what it is. I honestly just have a feeling that it's the contract situation. I'm starting to believe it's not a physical thing or anything like that. The only thing he did well in this was he was barely dispossessed and he had possession well and whatnot. He got unlucky on that shot he directed to goal, but he also didn't get a whole lot of it on that volley. And outside of that, he really didn't do a whole bunch. He wasn't connecting with anybody. He's out of sorts. And Morata's red hot.
Yeah, Morata's red hot. You have to be careful what we say about. We have to be careful what we say about Dybala because I normally get inboxed by a Dybala fanboy whenever I mention anything negative about him. So let me get this on record. He's a great player. He's just not playing great at the moment.
Absolutely.
There is something wrong with him.
I love Paulo Dybala. Everybody that listens to your knows. And I sometimes get called out for protecting him too much. But what I feel is he's earned a bit of patience from us, given his history with the club and what he's done over his tenure with us. But this run right now is the worst I've seen him in ever in our kits. So it's got to change. But until it does, like I said at the starting lineup, he's a sub trying to work in to the mix at this point. And that's all it is. Chiesa for Bernardeschi. Yeah, absolutely. Kulishevsky for McKennie. I'm not sold on Kulishevsky just yet. He's a talented kid, but I think he's kind of also looking for a spot here. I haven't seen him really like play a position where I'm saying, yes, this is where he needs to be.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but we get these subs coming in, and I mean, 7 minutes later, and Morata, just such a great play. He beats a defender. He slips the ball perfectly through to Cristiano Ronaldo, and the keeper just gets a hand to this thing to stop it. Otherwise, I thought 100% here's a goal. Morata's just instant impact, though. Like, this guy is just in crazy form right now.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, Morata gets slipped through by Chiesa. He does well. He gets in there and smashes the post short side. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like, is this seriously going to finish 1-1? And then in the 81st minute, Bentancur has a hell of a rip from outside of the area on a volley. And that thing, I still think it was going to go over the bar, but it forced its save out of the keeper. Yeah. And then shortly after that, we get Arthur coming out, Ramsey going in for him, and Rabiot going into this match, and Bentancur coming out. And my God, man, that's Pirlo having to play all these guys in this match to Ferencvaros is so frustrating, right? And this is why we talked about at the start how I was wanting him to play the guns to kill it early and then give them rest. Because I always feel like you're coaching backwards, especially when you're trying to get momentum built, right? It would be different if we were rolling these past couple months, right? Then it's like, okay, yeah, now we could do this, but we're not. We're trying to get the wheels in motion, and it is what it is. We've got essentially everybody out there. 91st minute, Danilo, first of all, with a beautiful ball over the top, rewarding Cuadrado's run, where he finally takes the guy to the byline. And this cross from Cuadrado is ridiculous. Like, absolutely ridiculous. And Morata, man, of course it's going to be him. And he hits his thing, and the keeper gets so much of it. And I'm like yelling, get over that fucking line. Like, get in there. And it does. Big fist pump. Happy for Morata. Happy for the team. Take the points and get the hell out of here. My God, it was not pretty, and it leaves a hell of a lot of questions to be answered. But at the end of the day, we qualified with 2 games remaining, which would be crucial for Pirlo. Obviously, top spot in the group is still what we're aiming for. And the next time we play Barcelona will be another measuring stick match on how much we've actually progressed with Pirlo, or if we are even progressing, because that showing was ridiculous. If these guys even need a pep talk when it comes up time for that match, then I question the heart that they have and the pride that they have, because you shouldn't have to say a word the next time that match comes. And every single player for Juve should want to be in that starting 11 to take it to Barca, because that was so bad. So this one, take the points, qualify. We do qualify for the round 16. Get the hell out of here. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. But geez, man, like, I don't know. And the funny thing is, watching it the second time, I watched this game twice. The first time, there's so many emotions, not only because it's Champions League, but you're watching the game live, and every little missed pass is just amplified because you're just like, come on. But watching it the second time, it wasn't as bad a performance. Ferencvaros, like we discussed, did a really good job at the back. Very organized. They had 5 across the back. There was not a lot of space for our guys. We had quite a few players that were struggling throughout the match. They did well overall, but there's a lot of passes that it just wasn't crisp enough, and sometimes, like we discussed, a little too slow. So the match overall, when you watch it back the second time, it wasn't that bad. Juve was always pressing. They just couldn't find those opportunities. The organization from Ferencvaros was quite commendable, to be honest. But Rob, your thoughts after the match had ended, what you're kind of thinking?
Yeah, like so I think in fact it's summed up I think a little bit by Cuadrado's cross, because I think he was just so frustrated. I don't know if it was he meant to do such a fantastic delivery or if he was just pissed off, and he just wraps his foot around that and smashes it towards him. And as you said, when the goal went in, I was relieved. My drink went everywhere. Um, Honestly, the drink went everywhere, and waiting for the final whistle, the television went straight off, and
Oh,
went
man.
for myself another drink. But but I did feel that it does give us a lot of questions, and more questions than it does answers. But again, they played very well. They were very organised. Their back five um, gave us we didn't quite know how to penetrate them. We it wasn't as you said, the second half wasn't as bad as my frustrations at the time made me feel that it was. Unfortunately, when these teams come to your ground, a point for them is fantastic. It makes their national newspapers that they're heroes for the night. They're defending for their lives, and all it was we were just rushing that final ball. We just seemed to always just rush that final ball, looking for it into the channel, always looking for that ball into the channel between that didn't always exist. And I think Pirlo, even after the game, mentioned Artur was a little bit guilty of that, rushing the final ball a little bit too much. And I think that was clear a little bit. We needed to be a little bit cuter, spreading the play a little bit more, going from flank to flank, just disrupting that back line, because they were stoic in the way that they went about their duties. It wasn't as bad as it appeared to be. It's just that we just needed to be a little bit cuter.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
I mean, there's times throughout that match, there's a couple opportunities where I'm screaming, "Shoot the damn ball!"
Yeah.
Like, again, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's just a little too many, sometimes too many passes, and you're thinking, just have a hit from there, because what you're going to do is you're going to set that defender up for the next time. He's going to have to commit to you, or you're going to take another shot. So maybe he didn't score in your next one, but now he's thinking, man, he's going to shoot. I got to get out there, and you're challenging him to make a decision. But if we're always going to pass, and we're always going to pass laterally, it makes them very, very comfortable. And the fact that they're already organized, and the fact that they already have five across the back line, Jesus, like you're in for a long day. You're making it hard for yourself. So we have opportunities there. Guys just have to start taking them, and they just have to step up and start shooting. So that's why when like Bernardeschi takes one off the chest and has a rip, like I love seeing that. Bentancur on that volley, like that's what we need. Just start having hits and make them start to second guess themselves at the back, and maybe start getting out of position, because they don't want you guys having rips like that. But at the end of the day, got the job done. Yeah, it leaves a lot of questions to be answered, and some we will try to see if we have any answers to, as there's a lot of questions that come in today for this pod. But we're going to kick it off with player ratings. And like I said, this one's really interesting because there's people all over the place with the players in this one. But we're going to kick it off with what we'll do is we'll name a player. I'll kick off with my rating, you give yours, and then the next one you'll go first, and then I'll go, and we'll just work our way down the line of players here. So we'll start off with Wojciech Szczesny. Honestly, not a lot for him to really be rated on. I mean, it was a pretty quiet night. They all 6 for me. There's none there. I can't really blame him on the first goal either. I saw some people trying to give him a hard time because it was close to him or whatnot, but nothing there for me. Just an even 6 for Szczesny. Your rating on Szczesny?
Yeah, 6. It's nothing to do with him, the goal. I mean, okay, maybe one day he saves that, but there's 5 players make a mistake before he lets that goal in. No, 6 out of 10.
Okay, Cuadrado. You kick us off with Cuadrado's rating.
Well, this would have changed if it wasn't for the 92nd minute. I prefer him moving forward, so in a more advanced position. But I think he diligently went about his game. 7 out of 10.
I gave him a 7 out of 10 as well. Gave up position too easily on the first goal.
Yeah.
Lot of misplayed passes and just shocking decisions. I know that a lot of people gave him 2 assists in this game. He actually got 2 assists on the stat sheet for this game, but the first this is what I laugh at, and this is not a Cuadrado thing because a lot of players have done this before that I've called them out on. There's a difference between a pass and an assist. Him passing the ball to CR7 and then CR7 beating a defender and then having a rip from 25 yards out, that's not really an assist in my books. The second one, that should count for 2 assists. So we'll just give him 2 assists. Because the second one was incredible. But 7 out of 10, despite some of the struggles throughout the match, because we were struggling as a team through the match. 7 out of 10, I was happy with Cuadrado. Danilo, I gave him a 6.5. And that might be a little fair, a little too nice for him. But he was, slightly out of position, looked a little bit. But he made some nice plays too that gained some opportunities for us. And he played a beautiful ball at the end there to Cuadrado over the top there. So I think 6.5 is okay for Danilo. Your rating on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't do 0.5 ratings. I went for 6, but he was playing well. He was playing out of position, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration. He didn't look like a car crash. He played, he did as well as I believe he can do in that position. As you said, he was part of the goal, part of the winning goal for that pass over to Cuadrado. So yeah, 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Matthias de Ligt.
Pleased to have him back. Absolutely pleased to have him back. And I think we covered a little bit of little bits that he disappointed us in this match, but certainly better to have him there. And we do look more comfortable when he's there as opposed to Bonucci, in my opinion. I'd give a 6 out of 10 for De Ligt.
6 out. I actually went 7.5 out of 10 for De Ligt. I thought he had a very, very strong match. There was a couple miscues here and there, but again, I think it's more the lack of familiarity in that back line. But I thought him as himself was very, very solid. Alexandro. So I gave Alexandro a 6. And it's probably just because of the fact it's his first game back, a full match back in a long time. But I thought he looked a little sluggish, and I thought he looked a little bad positionally. But 6, just even 6. I didn't drop him in the hole any, and I didn't bump him up any. I just thought it was an even 6.
Yeah, I went a little lower. He frustrated me a little bit. He got caught out for the goal, but also he tends to do this. If you watch him, he tends to give away these tedious free kicks by going into the back of the man. When you're looking for that goal, and he just kills time for the opposition. He does it time and time again, and he did it in this match 2 or 3 times. So yeah,
you're right. Towards the end there, he was doing that so much, and it was frustrating. Like, we're trying to keep pressure up there, and it was just very, very lazy and clumsy. You're right.
And that referee just, if he could whistle, he loved his whistle, and he gave him an excuse every time. So I went 5 for Sandro just for that reason.
Okay. McKennie.
Yeah. Tough one. He's playing out of position, but there is desire there. He did win the ball back for me, and he did put his foot in, and that's what his game is. As you mentioned at the start of the pod, his best position is probably just in that pivot ahead of the defence, playing in off the right flank where he's got a lot of responsibility covering Cuadrado, and also to get forward and support the attack. Not really his game. I'm going to be generous and say 6.
Yeah, I actually dropped him. I gave him a 5 just because really I just felt like he was a passenger, and to no fault of his own. We've talked about it. I think it's just an experiment that didn't work for Pirlo, really. Yeah, just not where he's suited to play. Arthur, I gave him slightly above the starting 6. I went 6.5 just because outside of the final third, his final passing, I actually did like what he was doing against Ferencvaros' press in possession. I thought he did have a lot of sequences where he was moving the ball very, very nicely and progressing well. The final third, though, it was rushed. It was not crisp. It was, and it's funny because he's been the opposite for quite some time. It's like I watch him and usually it's like, okay, man, release the ball. And then it was like, okay, where are these forward passes? And then all of a sudden this match, it was a lot of forward passes, but it was a lot of bad forwards passes. So it's like, okay, maybe tone it back a bit. So I think in time, Arthur's going to be crucial for us. He's got to get there. But I also think has a lot to do with how many different players we have in different setups and the way we play, and that's got to tie into some of these guys too. And I think it's got to all come together. But Arthur's continuing to grow, in my opinion. 6.5 I thought was fair for him. Your rating on him?
Yeah, I agree that's probably a standard rating for him. But the guy's got glue on his boots.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that there's going to be a game when he receives the ball off of Chesney and he'll turn and he'll lose it and we'll concede. But for the majority of the time, when he gets that ball there, the way he guards it, the way he starts, fantastic footballer. The issue is, again, I think it is just how getting used to the team and the team gelling. He was just a little bit rushed in possession, particularly when he got to the last third of their pitch, just trying to find those through balls that weren't there. It was too tight to be doing that, and it was just decision making in the end. But undoubtedly, a talented player.
Yeah. Rodrigo Bentancur. Bentancur, I dropped him. I went 5.5. I think he continues to look out of place, and I think he's low man on the totem pole in the midfield for us right now. What did you score him, Rob?
Yeah, 5.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you see on Twitter, you see Juve fans everywhere. Bentancur. What? I'm struggling to see what exactly he offers. I'll be honest. Is he a great ball winner? I don't know. I wouldn't say that's particularly his game. Is he a great box to box player? Doesn't really offer enough going forward. Not really creative. At the moment he looks like a plodder, and he needs to pick up his game. He's been at Juve a long time. We're lacking leadership all over the pitch. He's been at Juve. I know he's a young man, but he's been at Juve for a long time now. He needs to start stepping up, and the time is now.
Yeah. I mean, there comes a time like he continues to be low man on the totem pole even after being there for a while, but he's not offering as much as the other guys. And you're absolutely right. And I've been asking this lately on the podcast. I've been saying, like, he's not a holder because he's getting outplayed in that regards by Arthur. He's not a physical guy because Rabiot owns him when it comes to being physical and a presence. And even McKennie beats him at that. And McKennie's the best ball winner out of all of them.
Yeah.
So it's just like, Bentancur's just got to find something that he can latch onto and offer. And then when you talk about guys out of there that can go forward, box to box, Ramsey's the guy. And Ramsey gives you a lot more going forward out of all of them. So Bentancur's got to find his niche, and he's got to find pretty Bernardeschi. I went 6.5. I was okay with Bernardeschi. I thought it was all right.
Yeah, average game is what you'd expect from him. He doesn't score enough goals, doesn't create enough chances, doesn't get enough assists or those key passes in the key areas and key times. But it's a steady improvement. If we can keep on this trajectory moving forward, hopefully by Christmas, into the new year, we can see if he keeps playing like this, maybe we found a position for him.
Yeah. Now we go to Paulo Dybala. I gave him a 5. Disappointing again.
Yeah, 5. I think he's worrying about his contract, as you said. He didn't perform.
Yeah.
Rushed things, and just looked completely out of sorts.
Yeah. Cristiano Ronaldo. What did you have for a rating for Cristiano Ronaldo?
Ronaldo, a 7. He
I
scores
gave
the
him the
goal.
exact same rating, 7.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah. I thought, honestly, he created a couple good chances, but he also looked off in quite a few scenarios, noticeably off for his standard. But he did do fantastic on the first goal. It was a tough one for Ronaldo, honestly.
Yeah.
But I ended up the same. I gave him 7. Now let's talk about some of the other guys that come in. Ramsey and Rabiot don't qualify because they didn't play enough minutes. Out of the subs, Morata, I went 7.5. Instant impact from when he came on. Almost had a goal and 2 assists after joining in the 61st minute. And very much unlucky not to have 2 goals and an assist to his name after that half hour, but instant impact. He continues to be the key for Juve, in my opinion, not only because of him and what he offers, but just the number 9 role. He's the only one that plays it truly. And I think that's why he is key to Pirlo's Juve. But I gave him 7.5, and honestly, I had it between him and De Ligt for man of the match, and that tells you a lot about Morata if he plays a half hour and he can easily take that man of the match. But what'd you score him at?
Well, Morata, to be honest, he's only on the pitch for a short time, but as you said, he's changed the game.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't want to be too generous, but I would go as high as a 9.
Yeah.
He changes the game. He goes on. He changes the dynamic. He changes how we approach the attack. He occupies the defenders in a way that Dybala doesn't occupy the defenders. He scores the goal. He nearly gets 2 assists. He hits the post. He's just a constant menace.
Yeah.
You know, if we're looking to mark players on how they affect the game, then he's completely changed the game by coming in. We are in big trouble if he gets injured. Massive trouble.
I agree. And then we have Chiesa and Kulusevski to finish off. Chiesa, I gave him a 6, even. Kulusevski, I dropped him down a bit because I thought he was invisible, to be honest, 5.5.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, agree.
Your man of the match, Morata?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to give it to substitutes, especially when they haven't been on the pitch, but it's hard to get away from it, isn't it, really?
Instant impact and change the match. And again, that half hour was crucial, and he just completely changed it for us. I'd say it was him or De Ligt for man of the match, and I'd be fine with either one of them. But that wraps up the ratings. Now we're going to get into some of the comments and questions that come in from Juventini after this, just post-match thoughts. So we have Arun S. Lesh who writes in, "We're going 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Wonder what we need to get rid of this lethargic play." And this is an interesting comment because, like I said, when I watched it the second time, I don't really feel it was lethargic from us because we had the possession. We were moving the ball well. We just couldn't find the lanes or the avenue. And, so I don't really necessarily feel it was this typical lethargic play. And a big indicator for me of that is if you looked at us playing poorly last season under Sarri, or even Allegri's final season during his tenure, we would go matches where we literally hit the 70-minute mark without an attempt on target. This was not the scenario here. We were the driving force in this match. We just couldn't find the lanes or the area. Ferencvaros was ecstatic to have the lead at one point of this match. They would have marveled at a draw. This was Juve's to drop points or whatnot, and we were always in the driver's seat. It was just finding that finishing touch. And I don't necessarily say this was lethargic play. Your thoughts on that one, Rob?
Wasn't lethargic at all. I think people need to just need to sort of differentiate between lethargy and thumping a team 4-5-0. There is a difference, and the difference is the opponent and how they play. We haven't got a right to beat these teams 4-5-0 every. Well, I've watched Juve many years. There's very few times we do that. These teams have come here. They've set up well. We need to give them a little bit of respect, or at least respect the effort they put in. They've prepared for this match. They've set up their tactics. The manager's done extraordinarily well to get them in a position where they were so organised. We weren't lethargic. We just couldn't bloody break them down. And that wasn't to do with the speed of our play. It was more to do with just that little bit of decision making. And as you said, yeah, Saudi last season, this was a draw. If we played like this, there's no way we're winning that game. And I don't know if we've gone 2 steps back. I think that's a little bit unfair.
Yeah, I agree there. CR7 writes in. Imagine that. The one and only.
Big fan of the club.
So here's this Twitter handle. I believe his Twitter handle is actually at Stromaestro. But he writes in, was much better with Morata and Ronaldo together than out of form Dybala. Before it was too slow. Juve could have been more clinical in chances. He put Morata and CR especially. And he puts Pirlo relying on Morata and CR7. Yeah, I think honestly, CR7 he's that guy. And naturally, it's just a trap I think any team that has him on there is going to fall into, which is relying on that because it's an extraordinary talent. You know what I mean? And he's the ultimate finisher, one of them. And naturally, you are going to look for this guy. So the thing with Morata that I feel is not only is it him, but I was excited when we brought back Morata. I always thought we should have locked him in when we had the opportunity. I always thought we should have never let him go. And my father and I used to get into this argument all the time because he wanted Higuain and whatnot. And I said, man, I'm telling you, let's keep Morata. He was a cup and Champions League killer for us. Just keep him. The goals he scores are huge. But anyways, I like the traits. I like the way he plays the position. I like that he's younger. I like that he's got wheels. I was happy out of the options we had that it ended up being Morata. More importantly for this system, he's the only one out of those guys that doesn't wander. And it's just the way Dybala and Cristiano Ronaldo play. The one thing with Ronaldo is he's just so much more physical than Dybala, and he will impose his will, and he's elite. The thing with Dybala is he likes being on the outskirts. He's not going to be always looking for that penetrating run or playing on the last line of defender. Those days are gone because he doesn't have the pace he did when he was at Palermo. At Palermo, he played as a true 9 for quite some time, and he had the wheels and he would do it. But yeah, he's over the years he likes to play, as a segunda. But the thing is our formation has not played with segunda, and I still think, and I've said this on the last podcast, I think the only way Dybala fits is playing with Morata. And the only time he's going to actually truly fit, because if we continue to take Morata out to get Dybala in, you lose that man who's occupying and being that pivot that Dybala needs to play off of. When it's Ronaldo and Dybala, they both play with so much freedom. They just rigid, that right there that they link up with. You lose that link. And that's the one thing I notice. And it keeps being said that Pirlo will experiment at some point, the 3 of them playing. And I just, your thoughts on this comment and your thoughts on what I'm thinking about getting Dybala to work and why it's not working. I still say Morata's the key. But what do you think, Rob?
Morata is the key. And we need to play with a number 9. We need to play with somebody that occupies the forwards, 4 players like Dybala and Ronaldo. I truly believe in January we probably need to get a backup number 9. We really do. I struggle to see Dybala and Ronaldo coexisting in the same team without losing balance elsewhere in the team or elsewhere in the 11. He is out of form, but also if you look at his statistics since Ronaldo's come, they're not as they were when he played with Higuain. He does seem to be struggling with. I don't know whether it's been suggested he's in awe of Ronaldo. I don't think he's in awe of Ronaldo, but he certainly hasn't found a way to impose his own ability on the team at the same time that Ronaldo's been there. And I don't know quite what the answer is, but he's 27 now. He's now should be at the peak of his powers, and I think we need to be deciding, and I know we are making that decision with the contract situation. Is this rectifiable, or is it not? And if it's not, then we need to make a decision sooner rather than later for both his benefit and for the benefit of the club.
Yeah,
I can't foresee. If you look at the balance of the players we have in that roster, I cannot see a system or a formation that we can play where we can get the 3 of them on the pitch, and Kulusevski, and and the other wide players that we have, and still maintain the balance in midfield. No one tracks back enough, so I'd worry.
Yeah, keeping on this this topic here, Rome's Juventino writes in, does Dybala fit this team? If Pirlo stays, should we sell him, and who would you want him replaced by? Or do we keep him and hope he can find a way to fit? Honestly, so I've been saying for a while, because I give Dybala the benefit of a doubt because of how many years he's been with Juve and only having one really bad season. But the longer this goes on, the worrying starts to increase with each poor showing. So at first, we're a few games in, I'm thinking, no, just relax. The guy's got physical condition issues. He's got a bladder infection. He's taken antibiotics. He played 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. But as this continues, and I don't know. I can't help but think he knows his time is up, because this contract extension should never take this long.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. You look at these contract extensions Juve throws out, Jesus, it's like they're handing them out like candies. Yeah. I mean, when we wanted to extend Khedira, it happened like that. We wanted to extend Mandzukic, it happened like that. They don't want to extend Paulo Dybala. Their intentions are clear. Paratici can dance around the media all he wants.
Yeah.
Nedved can say he's the future as many times as he wants. Yeah. Paulo Dybala, this is his final run with Juventus, and it might actually end in January, and I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't be surprised either. That would surprise me.
So the question, from Rome Juventino, does he fit this team? I think he can if it's with Morata. The problem is CR7 is always a lock as long as he's on your team, because he is CR7. Pirlo, staying or not, should we sell him, and who would you want him replaced by? If this is pretty much it, and I completely feel Juve will sell Paulo Dybala, who do you want him replaced by? I think right now we're seeing how crucial someone that could play the 9 is, but who do I want him replaced by? For me, it's Haaland, man. I wanted Haaland the second I heard the links and stuff with this kid, and you watch this kid, he is a beast. Mm-hmm. He's physical. He's got good size, but the wheels on him are incredible, and the guy can finish. And I just think like a guy like him, and it makes more sense with our project, the young guys and what we're trying to do. And when you really look at Pirlo's system, my God, man, that guy would be an unbelievable counterattack threat for the times when our team cannot, because we're not going to own the possession every match we play. We've seen that.
No.
So having a guy like that, like we need a guy with wheels like that up top. Like we haven't had that threat up top for quite some time. Somebody that's just going to, you know what, if there's a 50-50 there, he's getting there, no questions asked. I've been a fan of his, and I would love to see him. Do we keep the ball and hope he can find a way to fit? If we have to hope, if we're hoping that we can find a way to fit later on into the season, I'm pretty concerned. And I've been saying for a while that I would not sacrifice Dybala because of Ronaldo, because he's in the later stages of his career. But this becomes bigger than that if Dybala can't get past what's happening now. We don't know 100%. It's all speculation. But at this point, I don't think it's physical, because I just can't see it lasting that long or whatnot. And if it was physical or whatnot, they wouldn't be playing him that much. They'd say heal up, But to me, it's the contract, and I think it's done, and I think he knows it's done. But your thoughts on all this, and who would you like to see him replace? Say we sell him. How do you feel about selling Paulo Dybala?
Oh, it's a mixed bag. I mean, he's a Juventus number 10. He's a player I do really like. Who's had some great moments for us. But again, you can't have another season like this. Or if this is how it plays out for the rest of the season, be it in January or next June, whenever it may be, he'll have to go if it carries on like this. I do agree. His contract is probably playing on his mind a lot. He probably does know that it looks like there's not going to be an agreement there, be it because of wages or because of playing style or be it whatever it is. Would I replace him? Who would I replace with? I mean, Haaland. I mean, as you mentioned, he's a fantastic player. He's an absolute arsehole of a man, but but in a positive way. That's what you want. You want arseholes, and we haven't got enough arseholes at the club. And I think that's something which needs addressing. So he would be phenomenal. But rather than naming names, I would say that if he does go, and if he goes as early as January, then it would be a number 9. It would be somebody else in case Morata gets injured. Ronaldo could be another season. So
this Dybala thing, it hurts, man. Everyone knows how much I love Paulito, but at the same time, it's getting harder and harder to defend. You simply can't. You can't defend the performances, And like I say, it's changing now because it's just continuing on, and we're not seeing the Paulo that we know, and there's something going on there. And whatever the reasons are or whatnot, I mean, I hate to even think about him leaving Juve, but at the same time, if this is the Paulo we're going to get, because of whatever the scenario is, even if the club is at fault for letting it get to this point, regardless, I mean, you can't work with a player that's putting this performance out, no matter who's to blame. That's out of the question. It's just he's not serviceable at this point. No. So if you got Paulo Dybala, you're 10, and you're talking that he's going to be a substitute until he can earn his spot. Well, how long do you give him to try and earn that spot? Later on into this year, and he can't turn it around, then that's it. You have to. But it does suck big time if it is the contract scenario, because let's just change the question to this. Do you feel with what Paulo's done over his years with Juve, he warrants the contract extension? Let's just ask that question.
I mean, people will bring in the argument about how much he's going to be paid or how much his agent wants him to be paid. I couldn't give a rat's ass how much he's paid. That's up to the club and how much they can afford to pay him. The club need to make a decision on whether he's going to be part of the plans from the manager's perspective. Does he fit the system? If I'm saying with my heart, do I want the Juventus number 10 to remain? Well, if he can turn it round, as we talked about, earlier, and I hope that he does. He's somebody that if I'd love for him to turn around and score a hat-trick in the next 5 games, and if he did that, then of course I'd want him to stay. But I can't. If it's a contract thing, it's up to the club. Does he fit in with the playing style and how we want to move forward? And if the answer is no, then we are a duty to sell.
Yeah. It's a tough one, man, and it kills me thinking about it. But I have this feeling that that's it for Dybala this season. Daniel writes in, how much of a burden do you think the over-reliance on CR7 and Morata is? 72% of Juve's goals this season come from them. Given the increase in injuries from the tight schedule, are you worried? Yeah, we've talked about it. If Morata goes down, I'm worried. If CR7 goes down, I'm worried because we talked about these other guys. Dybala obviously aside, Kulusevski is hot and cold for me. I still haven't figured the kid out and where he's going to make his mark on this club, like from what position. Chiesa started out of the gate really, really hard, but he's kind of like, again, that's a player that I see needs to be up top, constantly putting pressure on defenders, running at them. But in this like wing back midfielder role, I'm not sold on it. And then the defensive duties that are part of that come into question. And yeah, I'm very concerned if if both of these guys go out, my God. It is a problem. It's a problem that Pirlo needs to address. And honestly, we should take this to one of the other questions, which is really great that I saw as a discussion point. And it was, are we progressing so far? How do you see this particular Juve under Pirlo? And honestly, I see a team that you don't know what you're going to get from match to match, because I feel like Pirlo's almost trying to play a system, but when he plays it with a certain group of personnel, it's interpreted completely different than one set of players. So it's almost like you're watching multiple teams when you watch this Juve play. And that just might be something he has to deal with. And he talked about it before, and he said, you create a formation based on the players you have, and getting the best out of them. But you really have to question that when you see some of these guys and what he's doing and playing. And then, you have this match and you get a perfect example out of McKennie out on the wing. They're completely lost.
Yeah.
And it has to raise questions about Pirlo. So are we progressing? I think we are in terms of, the overall game. We still have a lot of growing to do. He's got bad luck for injuries, Pirlo, that he's had to deal with. And he never got a preseason, which hurts him. But he's dropping the ball on substitutions and the reading of the game, in my opinion. And I think he's experimenting a bit too much at times. So it's really hard, but are we progressing? I think we're progressing. I see, like, these last couple games, even this one, as frustrating as it was, we were working the ball well. We were trying to do positive things, okay? And it didn't feel it was lethargic. like we got used to last season. So I think we're progressing. I just don't. The question's always going to be hard. Is it as fast? It's never as fast as all of us Juventini want. It's never progressing as fast as we want. But I do think we are progressing. It's just very slowly, and I think it's hard to progress as much as we want because our game changes so much based on the personnel we have. But your thoughts on the actual question? We know the over-reliance. We're concerned about over-reliance on those guys, but are we progressing? What do you think of this system? I'm not sold on the formation Pirlo goes with, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of head scratching about what formation it is from game to game. I think this was the clearest. Well, the last match was probably the clearest. It was a 4-4-2, and that was fairly clear from the outset. And I think are we progressing? Well, I think if you look at when Sarri was in charge, everything was choreographed to the nth detail. Every movement, every transition, he had a particular way he wanted the passes done, and I think Pirlo is freer, and I think that there certainly has to have been a change in mindset from the players. I think there's a little bit more onus on their personal responsibility, particularly in the final third. And as they move out the transition phase into the attacking phase, I think they have a little bit more freedom than they did under Sarri. And I think it's a little early to say whether we're progressing. I think there's been a lot of disruptions with late start to the season, no pre-season, crappy international breaks thrown in, and we've had disappointing results at the wrong time, I would say, and that maybe harms our perception on how we're progressing. Ask the question again in the new year. We'll see. We'll see how we're going. I would like to see a more settled formation, and I would like to see, if not an 11, at least 14 sort of players where you think, well, these are the main sort of 14 to 15 guys, and we won't see much chopping and changing. I don't want to see Kulusevski 1 week play as a right winger, next week as a left wing back, and let's just get players. Let's get them positions.
And that's the one thing that makes it so difficult. I mean, are we progressing? And you think about that, and we have seen these guys all over the place. So it's really, really hard. It's still at the point of Pirlo experimenting, there's still experimentation going on. So it's really hard to say that we progressed. I think we have, just very, very minimally. And maybe all that progression is getting Matthias de Ligt back, really. And maybe it just feels like, yeah, we've progressed, because it's night and day how we can press with him in the lineup as opposed to him outside of the lineup, because he's going to win that first ball aerial out and allow us to sustain the pressure, right? So it's things like that. The trend that is kind of concerning, though, is the consistency in terms of play, and trying to figure out, is that the reason? The fact that, you could see Kulusevski as a winger one match, you could see him as a wing back on the left side one match. Like, is this why we're getting some consistency issues in our overall performances? Do you think it's the personnel being used? Do you think it's the formation? Like, I mean, we talk about this and these guys all over the place. I see Kulusevski as he's a hard one. I can't figure him out because I watch him play at times. I say he needs space ahead of him. He needs to be running at defenses. Stick him somewhere in the midfield, even at attacking mid. But then you watch him sometimes, you're like, my God, is he clumsy? Is he not clumsy? Like, maybe he shouldn't be that far back from goal. Maybe he just needs to be up close to goal. Chiesa, to me, needs to be high up the pitch when he does play. He needs to be the one going at defenders in the area, causing issues, drawing PKs, beating his one like, that's how he plays. When he spends a high percentage of his match doing defensive duty out on the byline, and then has so far to go to goal, I feel like he's wasted. Pirlo even said it one match. He said we couldn't trigger Chiesa out on the left wing. Well, yeah, of course you can, because he's at midfield trying to win balls back for you.
Yeah.
So it's tough, and I think that's part of why we're having some consistency issues. But what do you think? Is that the reason? Is just the too much movement in positions and not really being sold on a formation?
Yeah, absolutely. And Pirlo himself has said, the time for a transition is over, and now we've got. I think he said we had at the time 10 games, cup finals, or whatever he decided to call them. But let's hope he has the same. He's had the same perception for himself as well. We do need to settle, if not on a 4-4-2 or 3 at the back or whatever it is. As long as we know the principal positions of our players, and and they're used to playing either sort of Kulusevski, attacking role, or Chiesa playing further up the pitch. They need to be playing there consistently. That's the only way we're going to get consistency in the team. If 1 week, you see it with how well players gel together. There's no telepathy on the pitch. These things take time to develop, and they only take time to develop when players are used to playing, with their teammates, and used to be picking them up in pockets of space where they were the week before. And if we keep changing from week to week to week, then we won't develop that consistency.
Yeah. And I have to agree. I think it just comes down to the experimenting. I hope that pretty quick here, Pirlo just ends up going with what he needs to go. I think at this point, though, he's locked into the formations he's going with. Like, that's going to be what we see. So now it's really going to come down to whether those guys are going to be able to capitalize of where they are going to be playing, because I don't think we're going to see the changes. Like, I can't see him shifting ever to a 4-3-3. I just don't see it happening. I think we're going to get that 4-4-2 flat that morphs into like a 3-4-1-2, something like that. I think that's kind of what we're just going to have to work with.
I think he worries with Ronaldo, and he has to play Ronaldo every match, of course, and he needs to play every match because he's our best player. But when you play Ronaldo, it causes a problem on the left flank or wherever he's playing, because he's not going to track back. And if you've got Dybala as well playing, then that's 2 problems. There's 2 players that you're going to need to compensate. So is it a little bit between a rock and a hard place, Pirlo, with his formation? I don't know what the answer is. He's paid a lot of money to make that decision rather than me, and he needs to find the answer. But whatever he goes for as the answer, he needs to stick to it.
Yeah,
he needs to stick to it.
Yeah, I agree, and time will tell. And the Serie A race is where we are gonna wrap up. So as it stands, AC Milan sitting atop of the table at 20 points. Sassuolo in second with 18. Juventus at 16 in fourth place. Roma with 17 in third. And this race is going to be interesting this particular season. We are definitely in a transitional period for Juventus, and we are not at our best, and we're still only 4 points out of top, 8 games through. But I want to ask you a few questions about this. AC Milan, is there going to be a drop-off coming? When does it hit? Sassuolo, can they remain in that top 4 throughout the season? And will Juve win that 10th straight?
Well, first of all, I mean, over in the UK, we had Leicester City a few years ago winning the Premier League, and a lot of people made a lot of money on a bet. So, I mean, if I was a betting man, I would say I would put a 10 on Sassuolo straight away, just in case they did win. That would give you a nice windfall. Milan will drop off. I'm pretty sure they will have a drop off. It's natural. I think they've been, they are the informed team. They've lost Dybala for a period. We'll see how that affects them. But there's no doubt that Pioli's got the mentality up It's good for Serie A. It's no good having an AC Milan that you know you're going to beat. It's good for Serie A. You know, it's about time that they came up, and it's nice having them as a challenger. And, you know, it's good for us as well. Can they win it? Milan can win it, of course. I think they've probably got as good a team as we did when we won our first of our last 9. It would be that same sort of story, but I believe with the consistency we can come back and win this 10th one. If we don't, it's because we're in a transitional year, and we are in a transitional year. Let's be honest. But it would be so good to wrap up the 10th. If we don't, then we celebrate 9 in a row, which is fantastic, and we move on. There's a little bit inside me which worries that with this current incarnation, with this current run, that we won't win the Champions League until we drop off in Serie A. There's a little bit inside me that says that. So I don't know. We probably need a little bit of a rebuild, and we're in the middle of a transition. We can come back, but I wouldn't be surprised if Milan picked us this season.
Yeah, well, God, I really don't want to think
as long as it's not Inter.
I mean, the run's gonna end sometime. Hopefully, you know, not. But yeah, I don't know. I'm waiting for the Milan drop off. I think it's coming. I think it's natural. I think, honestly, when it does, I think Juve will. I think Juve is going to emerge this season. I think we'll find a way. We'll do it. I think, especially after last season, seeing how it was right there for the taking for all those other clubs, and they literally pissed it away. I can't help but think, like, it's so funny because even while we stumble, this aura that we've created that is like this ultimate mindfuck for these other clubs, it just causes them to collapse. And they're always, even when we have nothing to do with scenarios, they're looking at Juve like, damn Juve and damn this and these refs that and all this. And it's like, we honestly have nothing to do with it. And that Scudetto last season was literally Merda's for the taking.
Oh, God.
You know, and they just pissed it away. And Lazio, it was there for them, and they just made a mess of it.
Yeah.
So I honestly, like, if Milan ends up being the ones and they're in the mix, I completely expect there's going to be that drop, and it's just going to come. And if they can wait, think about how late in the season last season it was, because as it gets later and as you get closer, that pressure just does this, and they just crumble. Because this is even though we had Sarri coming in last year, you know, there was this moment where he flipped the switch and just went safe mode, and it didn't really feel like a transitional year. This year, 150% feels like a transitional year, and we are not rolling. We're just not rolling. We're not firing on all cylinders. And the fact that we're only 4 points out and we dropped critical points in a couple matches, especially the 2 we dropped against Lazio. I mean, I have a feeling we'll get her going. We'll get her rolling. I think we'll make a pretty sweet move in January. And yeah, I think we'll close it out and get the job done. 10 straight. And as for this weekend, Benevento, do you want to throw any predictions out for Benevento?
Yeah, probably a lot of stress again. Probably a lot of stress, a lot of frustration, and probably I'll go 2-1.
2-1. Yeah, I'm gonna say hopefully a little bit less stress and a little less frustration. So maybe like 2-0, but they score one, but then we'll make it 3-1. Something like that. Anyways, Rob, man, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me on.
Recapping the Champions League match with you. We'll do this again, and I think we are slated of the season. But yeah, where it happens. Again, been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah.
Everybody will be back on this weekend after the Benevento match. And again, with the first timer on the All JuveCast, which is amazing. The support's incredible. I thank each and every one of you. And thanks for reaching out. And if you haven't and you want to take part, I think there's less than a handful of matches left that are free. So reach out and let's hook it up. And of course, until after the next match, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.
Thank you.